Alright, welcome to a new game. Well, new to me. I've seen this game around on a lot of different channels, and every time I've seen someone play this game, uh, it didn't look like the game it is, and it didn't look like it didn't look like it played the way it does. I totally got a misread on this game until I actually tried it myself, and I really kind of like it. So let me just jump into it, and I'll show off a little bit of gameplay. But I think this will be a little fun tips and tricks. Uh, yeah, this will be a fun little tips and tricks, basically. So this game is really unique, and it is a very heavy story-driven game. So that's neato. Let's get into some tips and tricks for just starting out right here. These are some of the important options of the game, and you don't really realize how important some of these options are until you start disabling them. So, game mode, normal or permadeath. Like I said, this game is very story driven, and I'm gonna try not to spoil any of the story as much as I can. So this game is very, very story driven. In permadeath mode, sometimes there is plot armor for the enemy, and it's not obvious until you realize, oh, I'm already dead and I can't do anything to the enemy ship that has plot armor, and now my game is over and I have to restart. So for your first playthrough, I would recommend normal mode, and for the difficulty options, either should be fine. I'm not sure that these make too big of a difference. The interceptions more frequent can be uh, considered actually making the game over here, selecting a different option is easier because the more interceptions you get, the more ships you blow up, and then the more loot you can get. So I'll go over that. Maybe I'll go over that a little later. Enemies are tougher. There's like, I don't know, kind of a limit. And you can change this at any point during the game if it annoys you or if you're finding the game too easy. So that's nice. I wouldn't worry about the difficulty too much in this game. The dice rolls, however, I would strongly recommend leaving those enabled so that you can actually see the dice rolls. Because if you disable this, the dice rolls still happen. You just don't see the results of the dice roll. So when you disable this option, the dice rolls still happen. And if you have that disabled, the pass fail state that the game becomes is, oh, for some reason I failed that, or oh, for some reason I passed that check, and I don't understand why is leadership in parentheses, and why did I fail a check, or why did I pass a check. So leave that enabled if you want to understand what's happening in the background, the dice rolls. If you're a veteran of this game, you can obviously make up your own mind about dice rolls. Again, dice combat is the same thing with dice rolls. It happens, and you'll have no idea what's going on if you disable this. And the dice combat's not. It's a part of the game, but it's not. There's no reason to disable it, in my opinion. Just leave it enabled if it's your first playthrough. And then negative attribute effects. None of the negative attributes I think are like too game breaking. This is a very heavy narrative driven game, so obviously, even if you stack up every negative effect in the game, you're still going to be able to play through and advance through the game. I want to say all the way to the end. So there's the difficulty options, and do take note that if you already have a game in progress, like I do, game one, and then you switch to a different campaign and then choose different options here, and then try to go back and play your game one, all of these options will be whatever, or all of these options will be changed to whatever you saved last in game two. Something I figured out the hard way. Now then, for ships and this is the real difficulty option here. For ships and what you start out with, this is, I want to say this is medium difficulty ship. And then the armament also changes, adds like a difficulty modifier. I suppose that's how you could say that. And if you read all the comments, missiles are extraordinarily easier than direct fire options. And that's because missiles ignore shields and just start damaging the hull. So in all options, the missiles should be the superior option. That's what I'm seeing on all the feedback. I haven't tried this myself, but I didn't have a problem going with the direct fire weapons. And I started out with this ship. This ship is the easy option, if you will. The Infinite Astral. And then the Cosmos Transporter is the like hardcore option. This is the harder start ship from what I've seen on feedback. And then this is the middle of the road. And the reason that the way why I've called that medium, easy, hard is because of the weapon placements, how many weapons you can put on, and your secondary systems. So blue are like your secondary systems, red are your main armaments. This ship has 3 weapon slots and I believe 1 blue, and it's also fast and maneuverable. This ship has a whole bunch of weapon slots, and I believe a whole bunch of blue equipment slots. And I can't remember what this one has. I know it's terrible. That's all I know, because I never want to pick it. So maybe I'll check it out this time. Okay, so this is also where you can make your character. Hooray! You can delete your character's first name because the second name is the one that shows up in all the texts when you read. Or you can have this is kind of like your last name. This is your first name, but no one calls you by it, and then this is the name everyone calls you by, which is your last name. So that's funky. The things you want to pay attention to here is your traits. Obviously, green is beneficial, red is not beneficial. And there are some easier to change red traits and some more difficult ones. So, difficult things to get rid of would be impatient. I don't think I've ever seen this modifier in my playthrough. And one difficult one to get would be veteran and armor piercing ammo. Those are like late game traits to get. Old school is easy. I want to say to get. Manual reload would take a while to get rid of. Weak, I think, would take a while to get rid of. Cautious is really, really easy to get rid of as a trait. So taking cautious is great, and then merciful's pretty good, and bargainer's pretty good to start out with. So sure, let's go with this start. That's great. Character creation, the character's voice, I want to say, stays the same no matter what your character looks like. So pick the options that most suit you the best, but the voice, if you go with some of the ways the characters look, the voice doesn't match the face, in my opinion, if you go with something extreme. But I mean, have fun with it. It's your character. Why not? that's fine. This is just tips and tricks to help you out play the game. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail. I will go over my one gripe with the game, for the game being what it is, and you can probably already see the one gripe I
Captain,
have.
we're in the sectors adjacent to Tacet Stella. The War Council will not be held for another 2 days.
Understood, Mai. We'll take advantage of the downtime to supply our ship and patrol the area. Input coordinates to the nearest space station.
No need, Captain. Our power levels will let us fly for at least another 2 weeks.
We've spoken about this, Mai. The crew is exhausted. They've been eating nothing but synthetic proteins for a month. They need a breather.
Aye, Captain. Coordinates set.
Okay, so the game is semi-voice acted. Not everything you will encounter story-wise will be voice acted, and sometimes there are paragraphs and paragraphs of dialogue to just read, or not dialogue, but story bits to read through. So reading comprehension is something that you will need to play through this game. But let's go over my singular gripe I have with this game, and that is the bloom, or the visual effect known as bloom. And usually you get a bloom slider in games like this under video, but in this you don't. So I've turned off, I want to say, every option I could to make the bloom less horrible to look at. And sometimes it's just kind of unbearable. It makes the game unbearable to look at, and was part of the reason why I slept on this game for so long, is because every time I've seen this game in any YouTube videos or any streamer playing it, the bloom is just too much. It just looked like an eyesore to look at. So I'm glad I got over that and actually tried this game. It's actually it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of story bits that I quite like. I laughed quite a lot throughout the story, and I'm not even done with it yet. But if there was one thing I could change about this, I would definitely have a bloom effect, preferably a toggle where I could turn on and off bloom, but also a slider to control intensity of the bloom effect as well. And I know I'm not the only person who has this opinion about the game, because if you look through the discussions tabs, there are many, many threads asking for the same thing I'm asking for. I think that's the only thing I would change about this game. Everything else it's fun and enjoyable for what it is. Anyway, let's go over our ship now, and we start out with other weapon group. Okay. So what does all of this mean? Blue slots are your secondary systems, and then red slots are your primary weapons. So this ship starts out with 5 main weapons and 3 secondaries, and that's pretty insane for a starter ship. You're gonna steamroll everything you come across for quite a while into the game. And one of the more important parts, or the reason why to even make tips and tricks on this game, is this screen here. Notice that the engineering workshop level is 0, the scrapping is 0. There is no level per se on the sick bay, but this also gets better with, I'd imagine, the same leveling system. And then research is level 1. And the only way to increase these levels is to have the right crew member, or the correct crew members leveled up in a specific way in the crew member column on the left. So let's go over, I think this is probably the most important tip of the game. You will choose, as the captain, you can level up. Notice I have points here. You can choose which skill point to level up, and throughout the game you'll figure out which one you want the most of and which one you don't. And overall, even if you have 0 points in all of your skills, it really doesn't matter too much. But you can start to swing dice rolls in your favor if you start leveling up the skill that you want. So there you go for that. As far as skills that you want on crew members that are active in the crew member list, projectiles is nice if you're going for direct fire, normal damage weapons. Same for the same thing for energy weapons. And then the thing I like to go for the most is salvaging. And I should kind of back up and say, uh, you only want one crew member to specialize in one certain skill at a time. And for specialists, I wouldn't say this one matters a whole lot because weapons deal a certain amount of damage no matter what. So these are nice bonuses, but I think the one I would go for on both specialists or any amount of specialists I have would be the third skill for specialists specifically. And then throughout the game, as you just play it, you will eventually complete uh, you'll complete progress towards medals. There's nothing in the game that tells you you've earned medals. You just click on this at some point during your playthrough and go, oh, I got a whole bunch of medals I can assign, and they have passive effects assigned to them. And then as your crew members level up, they have more access to higher level medals, and the medals can level up too. Now, the most important crew members you can have in this game are engineers and scientists. Engineers have the crafting skill, and you want to max out at least one of your engineers in the crew members on the crafting skill because that will determine your engineering workshop level and your scrapping workshop level. So that's tied to at least one single engineer. And then as you recruit more members in the game, I would recommend having one engineer fully maxed out on crafting in reserve, just in case something happens to your main person. After that, for engineering, armoring is especially good to have maxed out first. And then last but not least, system upgrades is take a point in it whenever you really want. It doesn't seem to be... I mean, it's nice to have the augment ship reserve energy weapon. So take a couple of points in there after you've maxed out the other two. And then the other most important crew member is the scientist. Now then, just like the engineer, when you level up medicine and investigation, the departments level up. The sick bay levels up, even though it doesn't tell you its level here. And the research lab levels up. So you want one scientist to max out on medicine as soon as possible, and you want one scientist to max out on investigation as soon as possible. And then you want a backup in reserve of each crew member, and that will set you up fantastically for the rest of the game. And then the other skill is shield effectiveness. Having a third scientist max out just on shields would also be a great idea. And if you wanted, you could drop all of your specialists just to have engineers and scientists. So it's up to you how to play the game, but that's my tip to help you out through the game. The game will not tell you how to increase your level, and at some points, your engineering level will be too low to not only craft items, but also break down items. When you click on this menu, it changes to items you can break down, and you can get those items after fighting enemy ships. And then when you click on the slots in the sick bay, you'll see which crew members are sick, and you'll have to drag and drop them into the sick bay to heal their hit points. As far as ship controls, the first time I saw this game, I thought players were controlling their ships with the mouse. That is not how this game controls. You do everything with the ship turning wise with the keyboard, and it feels pretty good. Sometimes I feel like tilting the ship up and down should be on the opposite keys, but the more I play, the more I get used to it. So that's how I play, and then you can roll your ship. This is all keyboard controls. The only thing that's on the mouse control for me is increasing and decreasing your speed is done through the mouse wheel, and that feels pretty good. And you can also click the mouse wheel to bring the ship to a complete stop. And then you also have a in-system travel drive. Now then, one of the things you're going to notice, as this is a very heavy narrative game, is that the ship will stop sometimes during travel drive and you'll lose control of the ship, and it will probably drive you crazy at the start of the game. Just know that
Republic ship requesting docking permission, please.
when that happens, usually an event
Welcome, Captain.
is
Dock
triggering
at the
that.
assigned bay, please.
Usually an event will just dead stop your ship in the water, and either a story screen will pop up and tell you about stuff, or you'll be intercepted by enemy ships. That's a very normal thing that happens in the game. So if you're wondering why your ship keeps stopping all the time and it's getting frustrating, that is why. And a lot of events require you to be in travel drive to then stop you. And that's kind of annoying. Let's go over docking at stations real quick. You'll notice that the blue dock number is where you're supposed to dock. The spinning icon, if I can get it, says slow down. What is happening here is this green triangle area is where you're supposed to place your ship, and the more green it turns, once it turns like super green and like totally green, you just completely stop your ship, and your ship will then align itself automatically to the dock and you will be docked. You do have to come to a full and complete stop. I just want to park in a really awkward way just to show off how this game does the docking. So there you go. The ship is now just doing everything on its own and docking.
Docking complete. Only the authorized personnel can disembark.
Now then, usually at docking stations, you will have a commercial zone, a hangar, and an exit. The hangar will let you choose any of the ships that you have procured throughout your playthrough. And there's a whole bunch of ships to choose from. And as you further progress the story, you get access to even more and more ships. So that's really cool. Arcade is just for this system only, and it's really just a introduction to the dice rolling minigame with your crew. So I would recommend at the start of the game practicing in the arcade just to get a feel for how the dice rolling system works, and then the more you go out and get more crew and get more items to interact with the dice rolling minigame, you can keep coming back here to try out all of your new things that you have and more crew or different crew, and the arcade will update with whatever you have on your ship actively. So if you get items that interact with this game or the dice rolling game, you can spend those all for free in here and you'll get them all back. So this is a great way to practice and figure out that system, and it's probably a good thing to practice a few times. Excuse me. Now the commercial zone is the screen you'll go through most often. The stations don't always have the same things. Usually there will be contracts in one of these slots or crew members. And then almost always you'll have repairs available to repair your hull. And then there's a prison option here, and you'll have to click through your menu, these arrows, to your passenger screen to find prisoners on your ship, and then click and drag and drop them into this area in order to sell them to the station and earn credits by selling pirates as prisoners. And these purple icons here mean that this is a mercenary ship, and if you go into your system section on your ship, that's what these purple slots are reserved for. You can't put anything in there but mercenary ships that will follow you around in the actual game world. And usually it's just really annoying because they get in the way of your firing arcs, and then you end up shooting your hired on people. At least in my opinion. So I almost never run around with any mercenaries unless the story forces them upon me, which happens. You have a stash. As you play through the game on your save, you will unlock or you will get extra weapons and secondary systems, and you can take them and then throw them in your stash. And if you stay in the same campaign and start a new journey, everything in your stash will carry over. So that's neato. And then the scrapping workshop, you can just take uh, whatever you want in your scrapping workshop. Usually it's just armaments like this. Click and drag over here, and you'll get the resources on the right hand side. This system is pretty abusable due to the stacking buffs that you can get into this game. So at some point you can start crafting something that's fairly cheap, especially on quantum cores. And then once you've leveled up your workshop enough, you can actually get more quantum cores than what you crafted for. You could get more resources than what you paid in. So you can start multiplying the resources you get a lot and then eventually build up the gear that you like. And then the gear also has 3 quality levels. There's normal quality, the worst. There's high quality, and then there's superior quality in purple. And then high quality is green, I want to say. So you always want to craft purple quality gear that gives the best stats overall. And then the gear says Mark 1, and that corresponds to the upgrade level. You notice in the bottom right here, there's an upgrade button. You can upgrade the gear to Mark 4 as noted on the upgrade here. So that just indicates what upgrade level it is. Mark 1 is the weakest, Mark 4 is the strongest. And then you have to filter through by type. And the weapon types at the beginning, they all seem samey. And then the quality really messes with you until you figure it out. And then the mark system, Mark 1 through 4, messes with you until you kind of figure out that, oh, that just means that if I have a superior quality Mark 4, it's going to do the most damage for this weapon type. Whereas if I have a Mark 1, but it's also superior quality, that's why its stats are a lot worse than the Mark 4. And you can improve that Mark 1 up to Mark 4 status with enough upgrade material. So there, yeah, that will cover that. There's a lot of options to choose from and then mess around with. I haven't tried everything, only a few things, and it's a lot of fun to mix and match your weapons and figure out what works best for you. So I'm not going to recommend any of these. It's up to you to figure out what you like the most. And then the crew members, managing your crew members is probably the most important part. Like I said, get 1 for medicine in science and then get 1 investigation. You want to max those out immediately or as soon as possible. And the way your crew gets experience is by destroying enemies or advancing story stuff, handling, like, just play the game and your people will get experience and then level up. And this is their experience bar to the right of their portrait, just like yours, but your captain experience is over here at the top as well. I think that's all of the things I want to go over. The way you earn credits in this game isn't necessarily straightforward either. You can sell equipment to stations, and that is a way to make money, but it's not the primary means. The primary means is actually just to go out and blow other ships up, you will get paid as you blow other ships up, enemy ships. And then when you salvage enemy ships over on the right hand side of the screen, in the bottom right, you will notice what you've earned as you salvage, and a lot of the time that will be a significant chunk of credits. So every fight is really just giving you resources and credits, and they stack up over time pretty quickly, and that's how you end up buying more and more ships. The only other thing that I should go over in this tips and tricks video is where are the shipyards? Now then, when you first start the game, you won't have the full star map unlocked. You can see that this says sector behind enemy lines. You can use the ship's movement controls to move this map around. And you will be gated behind these. I recommend spending some time and maxing your ship out in sectors before you move on, or before you progress the storyline enough to let you into the next area. And then continue to max out the best you can and then advance the story. That's the way I've been doing it, and it's worked out fabulous for me. Now then, there are systems with shipyards, as you can see. And the way you access the shipyards, fly over to the system by clicking on it. And you can see why I really don't like the bloom effect during the warp screen. And the game also has like some sort of color filter over it
Captain,
too, and I
we're
don't like
getting some
that.
very strange readings.
What the hell is that? Mai, focus the sensors on the signal from coordinates 15-008.
Augmenting the scale. Decoding parameters. I detect high radiation readings, Captain, but I cannot locate the source of the emission.
Crew, exercise extreme caution. We're heading to the source of the signal.
Alright, so when you want to go to the shipyard, all you have to do is fly to the nearest planetoid, and that's where the shipyard will be. Some missions and quests will take you to a planet, and some bounty hunting contracts might even take you to a planet as well. So when you see those missions, it'll say that the distance is an absurd amount away as you get closer and closer to the planet. But then you will enter the planet menu screen like this, and then you'll be able to progress whichever mission you have. So don't be worried about the distance on that. And the planets are always where the shipyards are, not the stations. And then you have options to buy different ships. So there's one additional new ship, and then these are the 3 starting ships that you could have started out with. So this ship is, I want to say, medium difficulty, the one you could start out the game with. Notice it has 3 weapons and 1 auxiliary slot. This ship has 4 weapons and 1 auxiliary slot, and I believe it has worse stats or something. Somewhere I read that this ship is the hard mode to start out with. And then this is the easiest ship to start out with because it has 5 weapons and 3 auxiliary. But I didn't have a problem. Well, I almost got blown up a whole bunch of times with the medium difficulty ship, so I don't know, pick your poison, I suppose. And then this is a newer ship. And then don't forget to choose your color. You can't choose the color all the way on the right for some reason, or at least I can't, so that's a bummer. And you can rename your ship as you please. And that puts that name on the ship, I want to say, as well. So there's some fun little details. Anyway, that's how you get new ships, and I believe that's all I should cover in this game, because anything more would be kind of heavy story spoilers. There are distress signals and suspicious activity. Plus places to just travel to in the system, and a lot of events will happen there, story events or just combat events. So if you're low on money, just jump between system and system, and these will continually respawn, especially in the starting areas. In the later areas, maybe not so much. So if you're looking to power up in the starting areas, these are great little options, and I'm glad that Dice in the Dining Room popped up in the top right, because I almost forgot about that. But if you're looking to power up, yeah, fly to as many of those as you can. There's a whole bunch of story things related to that, and then just fly around in travel drive as much as possible as well, and then start getting through all of the story bits. And last but not least is when you see, and some quests rely on this as well, that it popped up in the top right, Dice in the Dining Room. The U key, as you can see in the bottom right hand, is assigned to something like that. That brings you to a menu where you can go to the bridge or whichever story event thing is happening while you're just out in space. And then usually you'll have a story screen like this. This is also a combat screen. That's why the crew is listed on the left-hand side. And you'll notice their health status, their damage is also listed there. And there's a whole bunch of reading, but this event happens fairly often. And then here's an example of the dice rolling. So like I said, if you turn off the dice rolling, this will just be a pass-fail check, and it'll still roll the dice anyway, you just won't see it. And it'll be, I guess it would be quicker, but you'll be more than likely you'll be wondering why sometimes you fail and sometimes you pass, and that's because it's still rolling the dice no matter what. It's just sometimes you'll pass and sometimes you'll fail, and you wonder why. So this is why I recommend leaving that system enabled. And that should cover it for the tips and tricks video. I don't want to play a whole bunch of this, or maybe I'll turn this into a YouTube playthrough later on. But this game is very story heavy, so it's everything past this point on this channel will be spoilers. So that's all you really need to know. And just experiment, try things out. I'm left clicking to fire off missiles right now, and then notice that there is a red bar that goes up, and I can't fire anymore till that cooldown goes away, and all the missiles are firing my cursors because, are following my cursor because these are guided missiles. So that's neato. Yeah, but just experiment, try things out, and have fun with it. It is a really fun game. The humor in the game is great, and I've had a lot of fun with it actually. And the only thing is the bloom. That's the only thing that really bothers me, and then maybe that the filter effect, the lens you see this game through as you jump into different sectors, sometimes can be either really washed out, dull looking, or too bright. So other than that, it's a really fun game, and I definitely recommend giving it a try. Anyway, if you liked the video, leave a like, and I will see you in the next one.